House to Home, presented by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.
For the past couple of episodes, my friends, we have been focusing our attention on warranties and when they apply to you as a property owner. But now Liz from RE/MAX Diamond Realty Guam is here. And Liz, we're going to talk about inspections, the all-important inspection phase.
Right. I'd like to talk about, we talked about brand new homes and the construction and the warranties that come with it. So this time I'd like to talk about if you're buying a regular home that isn't brand new, what are the warranties that go with it? Now, when you're buying a home that isn't brand new, there are no warranties, and the responsibility of a buyer is to do their inspection as part of their due diligence in their purchase contract. And so what we recommend that if you're buying a home, you should hire an inspector, at least to look through the home to find out, are there any issues with it? What are you actually getting into? Because if the home, let's say, is 10 years old or 15 or even as old as 20 years old, what are the problems are you going to encounter? Now, if you're Mr. Fix-It, no problem, because you can handle some of these issues. But what if you're not Mr. Fix-It? And yeah, and let's say there's a structural issue. What you want to do is you want to know what are the costs associated with fixing some of the problems. So what we do is normally we would provide a list of inspectors to the buyers, and if they're in contract, then they can hire an inspector of their choice to go in and look at the property. Now, there's a number of things that these inspectors do. Of course, they would check the electrical, they would check the structure. Now, bear in mind, if let's say you see something that's may be a structural issue, the inspector may not be his line of expertise. So then at that point, I would recommend that you get a structural engineer to go look at it. And then you want to know, okay, if there's a structural issue on the roof or the ceiling of the building or the wall, you want to know what is the cost to cure that. Is it going to cost $5,000 or $10,000? I would not recommend an individual try to cure that, because that is a safety hazard. So you need someone of some expertise to look at it and then hire someone eventually to fix it. But at least they can give you a gauge of what that's going to cost. Again, the home you buy, once you close the deal, it's your home. And
your responsibility.
And your responsibility.
Right.
You can't go back to the seller and say, Mr. Seller, this doesn't work. Because part of the due diligence is for you to inspect the property, and then once you've done your inspections and purchased the home, it's yours. Now, the inspector, Gina and I discussed this the other day, that we've had discussions with our buyers. When the inspector comes in, of course, there are different inspectors. They have different styles of looking at it, but sometimes you could get a 30-page report, 60-page report, or even an 80-page report. So when an inspector goes in, they're looking at every nuance about the building. They're looking at the cracks. They're looking at the way it was designed and stuff. Now, we usually ask the buyer, Mr. Buyer, what is your biggest concern about the home? Because if an inspector could actually point out so many things. The most important part are there code violations? Are they safety hazards affecting the home? These are things that are most critical. But sometimes you're getting a home that is being sold in as-is condition, which means if you discover some defects, the seller may not be willing to repair them. So again, you need to know what is the cost to repair that. So that way, you're prepared that once you close escrow, you know it's going to cost you, let's say, $5,000 or $10,000 to handle all these minor issues.
How about something that isn't a legitimate concern as far as something being broken? Like, say, it's not like your pipes are cracked or you're not like your pipes are leaking, but you've got old plumbing, and a plumber would say, okay, well, they're working right now and they're working really well. Right. I can see 5 years down the road this is going to be a problem.
But again, that's a factor that's good for the buyer to know. Mr. Buyer, you should know that these could be a factors, and at least you could prepare for it. But if you don't know that on the front side and you take it and then there are issues later. So again, pointing back to your report from your inspector, they may say the screen in your window is ripped, or that the window siding has signs of leakage.
How about like termite infestation or things like that?
It could have termite infestation. So again, these are factors. So the buyer beware which items are critical to you, because if Mr. Seller will not repair some of these items, you need to be prepared to bear the cost eventually. Now, another thing to bring up is sometimes when the bank sends an appraiser, they may, and it has happened, they may point out that the cabinets, I had one case where the kitchen cabinets had no doors, and then on one side the kitchen cabinet didn't have a counter. And so the bank required that these items be fixed. Otherwise, they would not give the loan and close the deal.
Okay.
So then again, the seller at one point was saying, I don't want to do this. I'm selling it in as is. I don't live on Guam. I don't want to repair it. So we had to go back to the buyer and we had to renegotiate what needs to get done. So luckily the seller said, okay, I will take care of that. And then the bank can move forward. They will not move forward with the loan until the transaction and the repairs are completed.
Okay. Is there a resource? Obviously, people can call you and ask you, a million different questions. I feel so lucky because I can. But if the average Joe out there watching right now wants to look up more information about what their rights as a buyer is in regards to inspection, is there an easy place to go to? You
can go online because the web is wonderful in terms of information, but you got to bear in mind our local issues are a little different than what happens stateside, because most of the homes stateside are of wood construction, and here on Guam they're concrete. But again, there's a wealth of information out there, and then if they need additional stuff, they can call us.
Just call you, it's easier. Plus Wikipedia isn't as nice as you, so.
Yeah, well, we don't have all the answers, but we definitely have resources.
You're good, you know you're good. All right, thanks as always. We'll see you next week. And we will see you right after this break.
Closed caption.